I want to talk to you about a Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker theory that is so controversial that people that are posting about it end up deleting it. Indeed, this all has to do with the end of the film Rey and the possibility of some new Skywalker twins. What's up, everybody? It's Josh. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Star Wars Sunday. If you are watching this on Sunday, and if not, no big deal, but you should know we drop dope Star Wars videos every single Sunday. Oh, and to all my Den of Nerds faithful, if you could chop like, that would be great. Okay, so I know tensions are high in the Star Wars fan community right now with The Rise of Skywalker out. A lot of people don't like that film. A lot of people really like that film. And there's been a lot of discussions about what's going on with Disney Star Wars. And I would urge everybody that has an opinion about this theory and about the film to just give me the time of day over here and watch the whole video before you decide to make your comments. And we'll come back to this in just a minute because I'll get to the root of where the controversy is for this theory, and we'll get into that in just a minute. So let's talk about the ending with Rey and Ben in Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. On the surface here, you have Ben Solo now turned to the light, showing up to Exegol to help Rey face Palpatine. Palpatine, upon realizing that the two are a dyad in the Force, says something really interesting. He said, a dyad in the Force, the power of life itself. He talks about how it hasn't been seen in generations, and then after realizing that it is a genuine dyad, he absorbs their Force power, revivifying himself to his Revenge of the Sith body. Now, doing this leaves our heroes helpless. Ben Solo wakes up first and turns to face him, but then is thrown off of the cliff because Palpatine wants to get back at the Skywalkers for Anakin throwing him down a pit on the second Death Star.
Oh, come on. What are they doing up there all the time?
Rey then wakes up and, aided by all of the Jedi from the past, is powered up to Super Saiyan Rey, and with the two sabers, she reflects all of the Force lightning that Palpatine shoots at her back into him, destroying him, but at the cost of her own life. This was a really wild Force feat, defeating the Emperor. It takes everything she has left, and she dies. Ben Solo climbs out of the pit, crawls over to Rey, and mourns her, and then decides to put his life force into her, bringing her back to life. But this, of course, costs him the last bit of his Force energy, and then he vanishes, becoming one with the cosmic Force. Then we get an end cap scene where Rey goes to Tatooine. She takes the Skywalker sabers, buries them in the sand, and a local asks her who she is, and she gives the name Rey Skywalker, basically showing all of us that she has now adopted the name Skywalker, and that is the family that she identifies with. Now, from the very first time I watched the ending of this movie, I thought something was really weird about it. I had questions, like why would she even go back to Tatooine? I mean, I can see her maybe wanting to bury Luke's saber, but why would she bury Leia's saber along with Luke's on Tatooine? Leia has nothing to do with Tatooine. Also, her looking around the homestead that is covered in sand and the way she interacts with that local kind of made me think that she's going to set up shop on Tatooine, and a lot of other people took this away too, that she was going to stay on Tatooine. And I was like, why? Tatooine, while maybe slightly better than Jakku, ain't that great of a place. Also, while I totally get her choosing her family as opposed to just being who her actual family is a thing. And I've got a lot of friends that were adopted, and I actually have a buddy that literally got the tattoo of his adopted family name on his arm to sort of solidify the fact that he was now this family and not from whatever family he came from blood. And I get that, and I know it resonates with a lot of people, but for me, there was something missing there. It didn't quite make sense. Why would she take the name Skywalker and stay on Tatooine? And as I thought about the sequence of events that happened at the end of the film more and more, I came up with an idea, a solution that not only explains why she would even go to Tatooine, but it completely explains why she would bury the sabers and why she would take the name Skywalker. And yes, this all has to do with Rey being pregnant with a new set of Skywalker twins.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one. Hopefully it'll work.
But the first and most obvious question is, wait a minute, how is Rey pregnant? When was she impregnated? And this is also where people get most angry and they start to online. And again, I would suggest that you just hear me out. Wait till the end of the video before you make your whole women are more than walking wombs comments or that this is freaking lame comment. So when I first watched the scene with Ben, there's just something off about the way that he mourns her. It almost feels like he mourns her, then has a realization and mourns her even more. Now, I will say that I've seen the film several times now, and although it is a little bit weird, it's not quite as crazy as I first thought, but still, there's some weird pausing going on there, and definitely some mental contemplation before he decides to put his life force into Rey. I actually think she was already pregnant before she went to Exegol, and what I think is happening in this scene where Ben is mourning her before he decides to put his life force into her is that Ben is sensing that it is not just Rey, but it is the two twins within her that he has to save. And this would also explain why it took so much energy and life force for Ben to bring her back, because he's technically not just bringing one person back, but he is bringing back three. Now, some people believe that when he puts his life force into Rey, that is the moment that he impregnates her. And I can see this because he does put his hand more or less on her womb. But again, to me, I think that she was already pregnant and that he brings her back. And I'll totally admit that the idea of Kylo putting in some twin babies into this corpse of a woman that he loves is a little bit weird, kind of creepy. But either way, if Ben was just bringing her back and it happened to create a forced birth, I do not think he did that intentionally. In fact, to me, the pregnancy more likely happened when they were on the second Death Star, either having their fight or when Rey brings Kylo back to life, saving him and removing the scar, essentially bringing Ben back to the light side. And frankly, when it comes to the power of the dyad, which again, I was so taken by the fact that Palpatine says the dyad is like the power of life itself, that almost any time that they were actively engaged in their force bond and their spirits are intertwined, almost any time during that, they could have created life within Rey. And in a universe where the Force itself literally impregnated a woman who was Shmi Skywalker, and that virgin birth was Anakin Skywalker, I don't think it's too crazy to think that Kylo Ren and Rey, being a dyad in the Force, created something like a Force birth, but between their actual two sides. The two that become one, that then become two. To me, that's very poetic. It's very Star Wars. It's like poetry.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme. Every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one.
Now let's talk about why this makes the entire ending make way more sense. First of all, it would make this more poetic of an ending because, of course, we start Star Wars with the twin sons, Leia and Luke. It's on Tatooine, but they are separated. And then we would end the saga with a new set of Skywalker twins, which do rise, actually juxtaposed against each other, which in my mind meant that this time the twin sons will start together and not be separated like Luke and Leia were. Like, it's a George Lucas thing. He says that Star Wars is like poetry. We began with twin sons, we end with twin sons. So you could say there are twin sons on the horizon. This would explain why Rey decides to go to Tatooine, and we all think she's staying there, and this would explain why she would do that as well. She probably wants to raise these children on Tatooine as Skywalkers, and that is where the Skywalkers began, and that's where the next generation of Skywalkers will begin. It explains why she would bury the sabers, and this includes Leia's sabers. She's not burying the Skywalker sabers forever. She is burying the Skywalker sabers for the eventual twins when they come of age. This would also explain why she takes the name Skywalker in general. She has now become a Skywalker. She wants the name Skywalker, and she wants to raise her new children, the children that are likely Ben's as well, as Skywalkers and not Palpatines. It both comes full circle, explains everything that actually happens in the ending, and it also sets us up for crazy future stories. I mean, imagine the new Skywalker twins growing up together on Tatooine, being trained to be Jedi, and then all of a sudden, they understand that they're not just Skywalkers, that they're actually related to the great Emperor Palpatine. Now let's talk about why people get so upset about this theory. The people that are most upset about this theory tend to be like progressive, tend to be like third wave feminists, and their argument is that you're treating Rey as though she is just a walking womb, that Rey's ending cannot just be served for new children, that women are much more than mothers. And to me, that is just so weird because, like, frankly, motherhood is an incredibly important part of culture and society, and it always has been. So I'm just really confused as to how people think that being a mother isn't a big deal. Being a mother is an incredible thing that a man cannot be. Like, it's one of those things when it comes to nature and just the way that the world is, that's amazing. Like, women totally own that. And to me, I have a lot of trouble with people thinking that it's an optics problem for the character. I also believe that Rey was just the hero of an entire trilogy, and she really had a pretty decent arc. You know, it depends on where you fall on that. I thought her arc in Rise of Skywalker was at least really good, considering some of the lackluster stuff that came before. And ultimately, like, she went through a journey. This is so much more than just a character that is a mother, but basically now, yeah, it is her turn to just be a mother. And I just find it crazy that we can't have like a strong, powerful female character that is also traditionally feminine and also a mother. Like, to me, it just kind of blows my mind. But I know that's just the way that I see it. And I know there are plenty of people out there that think that it's crazy, that think it's bad optics for this thing. So whatever your thoughts are about this, please let me know how you are feeling about this theory in the comment section below. And now let's shout out Wayne. But indeed, Red Tool is the DC parody of Deadpool in DC Comics. So shout out to you, Wayne. And now let's ask another nerd card question before we get out of here. I want to know, what is the last thing that Anakin Skywalker says before he dies? This is in Return of the Jedi. It's pretty freaking cool. What's the last stuff that Anakin Skywalker says before he passes on to the cosmic force? Answer that question in the comment section below. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.